All right, we are back to the Laura Croft, Tomb Raider, Manor, whatever you want to call it. We are back to talk about the third installment of my gameplay Dual Hearts review series. In the first part, we talked about the puzzles and platforming of the game. Second part, we talked about the collectathon aspect of the game. Now, what do y'all think is going to be the third part? I ain't gonna let y'all think, I'm gonna say it right now. It's gonna be the action RPG element of the game. This portion of the game is one of the funnest aspects of it. Everybody loves action, everybody loves hitting people with weapons, and there's just nothing better than it. I don't know if you think there's something better, you don't know what the heck you're talking about, because this right here is what I've been wanting to talk about since the beginning. I mean, the other parts were cool and all, but this is the one of the main parts. I ain't gonna say the main, but let's hop right back into this. I ain't gonna freaking talk too much no more. We gonna talk about it. I'm gonna review it, and let's get right back into it. Here we go. There are two modes in this game, normal and expert mode. Normal mode is just a normal base game. In expert mode, all enemies' attack and defense stats are doubled. I suggest playing the game on expert mode even if it's your first time playing the game, and that's because the game is just way too easy on normal mode, and I'll explain why that is later on in the video. I want to start this review off by separating the action RPG elements in this game into two parts, which is just going to be the two characters that you play in this game, Rumble and Tumble. Rumble, he dual wields the holy instruments or the weapons you get from the Temple of Dreams. You use your left hand weapon with the square button and your right hand weapon with the circle button. There is no way to only carry one weapon. You have to dual wield in this game. Most of the weapons in this game have a leveling up system. The first level or the base level of each weapon lets you only use the same attack. So every time you hit the button corresponding to that weapon, it's just going to be the same attack each time. And you also have access to a charge attack at that first level. To perform the charge attack, you have to press down on that PS2 controller strongly. And I say strongly because this game is one of the few games in the PS2 library that make use of the PS2 controller's pressure sensitive buttons. When you're charging the weapon, it begins to absorb the light surrounding it, and then releasing the button unleashes a strong attack that does, different things to enemies depending on which weapon was charged. The second level allows you to perform a 2-hit combo on enemies, and the third level allows you to perform a 3-hit combo. So 2 hits with the first weapon, and then the final hit comes from your other weapon in your other hand. So basically, if you want to hit a 3-hit combo, it's either square square circle or circle circle square. Now I'm gonna be honest, man, before you reach that second and third level, the combat feels slow and boring as heck because you can only throw out one attack at a time, and the attack, like I said, the animation is the exact same each freaking time. But you know what, man? This helps you realize the uniqueness of the first two weapons you receive at the start of the game. The Ragnar Blade is fast, weaker, and has a short range for when you're fighting up close, and the Longinus Spear is slow, stronger, and has a long range for when you're fighting far away. But these differences really aren't that useful throughout the game. I found myself mostly using a Ragnar Blade when fighting because it's faster, and it has a horizontal attack range, which means I can attack multiple enemies at the same time. But the Longinus Spear only hits what's directly right in front of you. But that doesn't mean the spear isn't useful now. Although most enemies in this game can be defeated with any weapon, all weapons in this game are required to defeat certain bosses. One of the best things about Rumble is that all of his attacks feel like they have weight to them. The animation for each weapon's attack is unique, and you can actually feel and see the pause in between attacks when they connect with an enemy. Now let's jump to Tumble. Tumble's moveset revolves around the use of the tummy meter. Each ability Tumble uses costs 1 Essamon, and as I said in the past, you can get Essamons in the grass, so you basically just cut the grass, Tumble sucks them up, and 1 Essamon is equal to 1 point in the tummy meter. Tumble can perform 3 attack moves: a dash attack, which is a close range attack that increases Tumble's speed and is an attack move; a ground pound, which is another close range attack that damages enemies around the area Tumble drops from; and lastly, a breath attack, which is a mid-range attack that can damage a group of enemies in front of Tumble. Now, I know what y'all thinking, that's it? Nah. Y'all don't understand, man. Tumble is overpowered, man. Overpowered to the point where all of Rumble's attack power is nothing compared to Tumble's. Every single one of Tumble's attacks hit harder than Rumble's. Throughout the game, you're gonna find it harder not to use Tumble when defeating enemies. Just like how I said in part 1 of this 3-part gameplay review series, how Tumble's movement is superior to Rumble's. You're gonna be moving around a lot with them, and you're gonna be attacking a lot with them because he's just the best of both worlds, really. The only downside to Tumble's abilities is that you have to stop and feed him every time his tummy meter is low. You have to cut the grass and feed him Essamons. The icing on the cake that truly makes Tumble such an unstoppable beast is the fact that he can heal you. Tumble can heal Rumble by pressing the L2 button, but it costs 1 Essamon each. On top of Tumble's insane fighting power, Tumble's healing power makes this game a walk in the goddamn park if you're not playing the game on expert mode. I honestly wish they never gave Tumble this ability, man, because this game is already easy enough, man. I don't know what they was thinking. Now let's go on to the enemies in this game. In Dual Hearts, you traverse through both the dream world and the real world. There are no enemies in the real world, so you can't even get hurt, you can't attack, and you can't use any of Tumble's abilities. Your health and tummy meter aren't even on the screen, man. The dream world is where all the action takes place. Now, there are a multitude of various enemies within the dream world, and they each have different animations and attack patterns. Some enemies attack up close, while some prefer to fight from a distance. Some fly, and some can swim, and some even have unique abilities. So for example, we got this enemy that can suck up Essamons. As soon as you cut the grass, it just sucks it up right away. There's an enemy that can take the item that you're currently holding, and an enemy that can make Tumble dizzy, which prevents you from healing, and it prevents you from, even riding on top of Tumble. Although most enemies can be defeated with any weapon or Tumble ability, they can get pretty tough to beat when in a group because you're being attacked from all directions. A lot of the enemies in this game act quickly out of stun, so you'll find yourself getting hit right after hitting an enemy if you forget to throw your guard up or throw another attack out fast enough. Alright, the next segment of this review is the boss battles. Each boss in this game is like a puzzle to complete. Each boss, has a unique way to defeat them, and they are all defeated using a unique combination of the holy instruments. You're going to be spending the start of each fight trying out each holy instrument in different ways to see which weapon can defeat the boss. Unfortunately, the game gives a player a bit too many hints to the point where most of the time you can basically understand how to defeat the boss without the use of trial and error. The hints Tumble gives you, which I talked about in part 1 of this review series, exposes way too much information on how to defeat the boss. If you want a decent challenge in this game, I would recommend you do not talk to Tumble when you don't know how to defeat a boss. Just figure it out yourself. Don't even look at him. I promise you, you're going to have a better experience and a more challenging experience. Alright, now let's talk about probably the most controversial thing about this game. And this is based off how many times it's mentioned in the reviews of this game online. The goddamn camera. You can lock onto enemies, NPCs, and some items in this game using the R1 button. Remember when I said this game makes use of the PS2 controller's pressure sensitive buttons? A light hold of the R1 button will keep the enemy locked on to the center of the camera throughout the hold, so I'll just call that a light lock on. But a strong press of the R1 button will lock onto the enemy regardless if you're holding onto the button or not. That's a heavy lock on. The bad thing about this lock-on system is that there is no way to decide what you want to lock onto. The game decides what to lock onto based on the direction Rumble is facing. There is no way to instantly swap between multiple targets when locking on. If you want to lock on to something else, you have to stop the lock-on process completely and start the process again for the next object you want to lock onto. On top of that, there's no guarantee you will lock onto that next object. The game could lock you onto an entirely different thing. In order to ensure that you will lock on to what you want to lock onto, your body, your character's body, needs to be directly in front of the object you want to lock onto, or the game will decide to lock on to something else. Even without locking on, the game's camera can be a serious hassle. The camera works very similar to Super Mario 64's camera, which moves in segments rather than freely flowing. You'll sometimes find yourself having to fight the camera in platforming segments to make sure you know where the next platform is before you jump. And although you get used to this choppy camera over time, it can cause you to fall a lot as you play through the game. Overall, Do Hearts' action RPG elements are very basic, but it builds a lot of nuance as you level up the weapons you receive throughout the game. Even though the dynamic duo of Rumble and Tumble is lopsided as heck into what seems to be a master-student relationship, Rumble does get his time to shine when you fight bosses in the game. And like I said, each boss, they all require a certain combination of holy instruments to defeat them. Man, I know the camera is a nuisance, man, but you'll soon learn to appreciate it because it's one of the only parts of the game that'll give you trouble, man. But that's only if you choose normal mode. If you choose expert mode, you'll experience a more challenging game that will have you on the edge of your goddamn seat at times. Phew, man, it's finally over, man. That part 2 was long as heck, man. I had 3 parts. Hey, look, I had to do it, man. Like the gameplay portion of this game is got a lot of aspects to it, and I had to flesh it out. I did not want to leave no stone unturned. But all right, man, that's the end of part 2. We're going next time. It's gonna be part 3, and I'm not gonna spoil it. Y'all gonna see what part 3 is about. There's still other aspects to it. We talked about the history, gameplay. Now part 3 is gonna be a secret, so stay tuned for that. It's coming very soon. Have a good one.